Hey, welcome to our podcast, Project Brightside, where we always look on the bright side, even when things are looking pretty dark. I'm Richard Brito,
And I'm Shelby Flohr.
and we're your host for today's episode.
Topics of discussion for our podcast include society and culture, education, and TV and film.
Each episode will have an interview of a guest speaker, followed by a Bright Talk segment where we discuss a complicated topic in hopes of shining light on it.
For today's episode, we'll be interviewing our project manager, Sofia Paez, aka Soph.
With that said, let's get started. Hi, Soph. So happy to have you with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Super excited to have you. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Yeah, well, nice to meet everybody. My name is Sofia Paez. I would say that I'm a bit of everything. Overall, I'm just a very open-minded person, trying to get to know the world and myself as much as possible. I was born in Colombia and I've lived in the US most of my life. I studied exercise physiology and then just recently full stack web design and project management. And that's what I do now.
Nice, nice. And what would you say are 3 to 7 core values that describe who you are?
So I'm very big on the golden rule, treating others how you want to be treated. It's a guiding light for my life. I also think that honesty, kindness, loyalty are very important. I'm very big on authenticity. I think just being yourself in like every scenario is just the way to go. And, remaining curious and optimistic about the world around you.
Yeah, I agree with the ones you've chosen. You've always been very loyal and authentic in like different working environments. And I really appreciate that about you. And you've always been optimistic as well. So I definitely see that as something for you.
That's awesome. So I guess the next question we have for you is, what do you aspire to do in life?
That's a really great question, Shelby. Thank you. I aspire to do just as many things that interest me, inspire me, and excite me. As I grow up, obviously like those change, but like just kind of staying true to like what I want to do in that moment. I aspire to see the world and understand and appreciate different cultures, and then later share that love of the world with my kids, if I happen to have kids in the future. I aspire to have a really healthy home where my friends and my families feel welcome and they want to spend time in. And I also aspire to help others realize their dreams, letting them know that they can achieve anything that they want and just being like a support for them. I believe that we're all here to learn from each other and help lift each other up.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love how you're kind of bringing in, the different elements that you're practicing now into the vision that you have of yourself in the future and possibly a family there as well. That's great.
Thank you, Shelby.
Yeah. And you're also someone that is very family oriented. So if you definitely want to give a shout out now, I know you wanted to do that.
Oh, yeah, of course. So just really quickly, I wanted to give a shout out to my family, specifically my parents. Right now I'm in my bedroom in my family's house, and I just think I'm very grateful that my parents have allowed for me to have a space while I kind of like go out and figure out like my dreams and like realize all the things that I want to like fulfill, and just giving me like that space to go ahead and grow and see life for like what I want to do. So,
That's
thank you,
amazing. I'm
everyone.
so glad you feel supported and that you have family that you're close with. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
I guess shifting gears a little bit, what do you feel like your leadership experience consists of?
So for leadership, I've held many different roles, and every one of them have been extremely valuable to my self-development. I was president of my sorority back in my junior year of college, and then I was also the education director for medical brigades at FSU, which is one of my favorite experiences by far. And then later on, I was the campus chairperson for global brigades at FSU as well. During these projects, I got to work alongside Richard and a lot of medical students at FSU, so that was great too, or like pre-med. And then when I started getting into project management, I was able to go ahead and do project management for the Brightside Productions LLC, which is something that I love doing now.
That's awesome. That's super impressive. I feel like you've had so many roles and worn so many hats. That's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And you've definitely transformed with each of those roles. Like you take the skills that you learn and you constantly apply it and in different fields too. So it's like very interesting how you like one day you want to do this and then one day you want to do that and you just like adapt and I love that. So with your leadership, philosophy. So what would you say your leadership philosophy and style is?
I would say that my philosophy is to stay on course and remember the objective while also keeping the team in mind and allowing for flexibility. Like you said, I take on so many different projects and roles that are like either new to me or just I've had to kind of like learn and then apply myself to be a leader. So just being resilient in that style as well. I think it's easy to be goal driven, but you also have to remember that it's not all about you. It's about the success of the team, right? It's about the team that is working with you to achieve that goal. And you have to listen to their concerns, but also like their desires as to like what they want out of whatever you're working on, right? So I think taking into account their ideas and their perspectives is very important because being a leader is not just about motivating a team to get something done, but also helping the team members grow by letting them express their ideas and feeling like they're necessary to the project, which they are.
Yeah, I love that, and I agree with that. I love, how you highlight each of the people within the team because it is a system, and you have to work with people to make the system function. So I agree. What would you say are keys to success?
The keys to success would be planning for the day, but also allowing for flexibility. You never really know what the day is going to bring, but you just need to prioritize and then work around whatever happens that day. And then also taking calculated risks. I think that's very important. And while you're taking those risks, having a positive mindset that it's all going to work out.
Yeah, yeah, totally. There is, investment, and with investment there's risk, but that's, a part of life, conquering that fear. You're being strategic, you're being smart.
Mhm.
So that's very important to do when you're trying to be successful because you don't want to feel like you're chasing success. You kind of want to do your own thing and build your skills, and then success will just arrive at your front door just by you doing yourself, like your own thing.
I just think that like feeds into like the authenticity, like just like doing like what you believe is right and like knowing that like it's gonna work out.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. So, we talked a little bit about the risks that are involved in trying to weigh those. What are some challenges that you faced in the past as a leader?
I think one of the biggest challenges is holding yourself to an even higher account. It can be very stressful at times, but with this responsibility, you have to learn how to handle everything like as you go. Sometimes you'll face challenges that you've never faced before and you just kind of have to like figure it out like on the spot. And it's not just for you, it's for like the team that you're leading as well. So you need to like think, okay, what's good for me, but also like how can I keep them afloat as well. So it can cost you a bit more time since you have to constantly be on top of not just yourself, but like your team too.
Yeah,
That makes
and yeah, sorry, and you make great points. Sorry about that, Shelby.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when you're faced with a problem that you might not know how to address right away, um, that cost is time because you have to figure out, but that's totally okay because that's a part of the process. Not everyone's going to know right away, like how to solve something. And if they think they know, like they're never really going to know the outcome until the outcome appears. So ebbs and flows, success and failure, like they're intertwined. Like if you fail and you don't try again, how could you succeed? But if you succeed and never fail, like how could you aspire to succeed? Another step above that failure. But that's why you have to like be confident with failure. Like if it happens, it happens. Embrace it. Don't really like dive deep into that well. Um,
Definitely true, I think, to both like the small and the bigger parts of life. Absolutely. So you all already kind of alluded to this, and it sounds like some of the challenges that you faced have been costs as well, but just to make it a little bit more concrete, what do you think the costs are of assuming a leadership role?
Definitely time. It's gonna push you to a new level of like self-awareness that you didn't have before. I think so. Definitely time and then just like that even bigger level of like self-awareness and just knowing that your decisions don't only affect yourself, but like other people as well. So the responsibility of that, of your choices.
yeah, facing that responsibility, having that like it's sort of not a burden, but it's a yeah, responsibility is the perfect word for it, actually. Responsibility can be taxing, it can be draining, um, and it could also come with a lot of pressure. So I think all of that is encompassed into that selection of responsibility. Um,
Mhm.
so turning it on a positive note, what are some of the benefits of assuming a leadership role?
I think one of the main benefits would be just the personal growth that it brings. It forces you to flourish in so many new ways. You learn to handle so many different perspectives and personalities. You learn great communication skills as well. And that responsibility that was once burden just makes you into like an even better person, I think. I think all my leadership roles have shaped me into a more aware person and just someone that really can like tackle like any issue that comes my way.
I love that. I love that. And I agree. So, what advice would you offer to others that are seeking to develop their leadership potential?
I think something that you really have to be confident in is your decisions. Like I mentioned before, like you do have to take other people's opinions and desires into account, and that's great. But know that they trusted you to be their leader, right? Like you were put into that position because the group trusts you to lead them. Someone saw that potential in you, and that's why you're there, right? So sometimes you have to make hard decisions, but you just have to be confident in the choices that you make and know that those choices are going to be beneficial for the group, right? And then know that it's okay to ask for help. The same group that put you into that position of leadership is the same group that's going to be there to help you because they want to see you be successful, right? Because when you succeed, they succeed as well. And it's just like mutual, right? So know that they want the best for you too. Reach out when you need help. Don't fake that you have everything together. Like you don't have to be like super strong for the group. Like, um, just being human and knowing that like they want to help you too.
Yeah.
So your
Yeah.
team is there to help you out too. So
I
rely on each other.
I totally agree. Authenticity is very important because if you're not like being your truest self and you're portraying this facade, then if you ever act out of character or which is your true self, that's going to be foreign to them. So then they're just going to think that you changed. They're going to have these perceptions because of the illusion that was brought up. So it's very important to be authentic. If you're not feeling good, say it. People don't assume that's just your character. Everyone has their bad days, and it's very important to be their most authentic self um, at all times. So thank you so much for answering those questions about yourself. Right now, we're going to transition to our Bright Talk segment.
For our next segment, Bright Talk, where we discuss complicated topics in hopes of shining light on the matter, this week we'll be discussing traveling independently. So, Soph, I guess to start us off, when did you really first start traveling in general?
In general, I started traveling since a very young age. My family always went on trips, and I traveled with my mom within Colombia a lot until I moved to the US when I was 7. So I was exposed to like a completely new culture. And I just like, I saw like the differences of life, like so intriguing, right? Like it was really cool to me how you could just live like so many different things, like a different place. And I was really lucky that I got to experience both. So that kind of just like opened my mind to like, well, if this is life here and this is life there, like how can life be in other places, right? So every summer I would go back to Colombia and get to experience life there, which was great. And I would do that trip with my grandma, right? And then I think some of my best travel memories are from those trips that I made with her.
I love that.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've had some really great trips with family. So, I guess when did you make that transition to traveling independently?
So it's actually really funny. The first flight I ever took alone, I was 11 years old, and I was traveling from the US to Colombia for the summer. Like I mentioned before, I used to go every summer, but my grandma couldn't join me for that summer for some reason, I forgot. And it was either fly alone or miss out on a couple of weeks of summer. And I decided to just go. I was a little bit scared, obviously, being like 11 on a plane alone, but it's doable. And ever since then, I just figured like, okay, I've done it before, and every summer since then, I would go back to Colombia by myself and travel to the US alone again. Um, so because of that, life went on, and then I finally got to a point where I, was of age and I wanted to do like a solo trip, and I was wanted to go to Europe, but no one wanted to go with me. And of course, there was a fear of going alone, mostly because of safety reasons. Like I thought like, oh, I'm a girl, I'm small, like who's gonna protect me, blah blah blah. Like I don't know anyone. How safe is it to be like in a new, completely different continent, like by myself? But of course, like the thought was still there, and I was like pressing on me, and I was like, I really, really, really want to go. Like there was this desire that like wouldn't go away. And I think it ultimately came down to timing. It was on actually like a girls' trip to Colorado in October 2022 that I decided to fly literally the next month alone to Spain and do my first ever Euro trip and full solo trip. And it was the best decision that I ever made. And I was 23 at the time. So a lot of time had passed since I was 11, but I feel like it was the best decision I ever made. And I can fully say it changed my life for the better completely.
Full circle moment, and
Yeah.
it came out more. You came out more transformative from it. I love that, and you make really interesting points for timeline when you felt these feelings, because it could emulate a lot with a lot of people. For instance, it was reported that between 2016 and 2019, 131%, there was a 131% increase in the number of Google searches for online solo travel. And then 42% increase in solo traveler bookings over the last 2 years. And then there's also an 84%. So 84% of all lone travelers are women. So women are stepping it up and they're engaging more in solo travel. And I love that. And you're a prime example of those people. And I love that. I find that so empowering because I personally have never solo traveled. Um, and that's something that I would love to do. Um, so also, I do want to mention this. So searches for single traveler flights are 36% higher for 2023 than they were in 2022. So I wonder how 2024 is going to go. This might inspire a lot of people, and they might be looking up flights to solo travel. But I love that.
I hope so. I recommend it to everybody, like, both girls, guys, like anyone who wants to like go and experience it for themselves. Like I think everyone should at least do one solo trip in their life.
Yeah. So, what was your most magical lesson from traveling independently?
I would say that the most magical lesson that I've taken from my solo travels would be that you're never truly alone. You're always surrounded by so much love, whether it's by the people back home that check in on you or like that keep up with your stories. But most importantly, that you learn to value people so much more, right? So there's an acceptance that comes with letting people into your life. When you're abroad, right? You're traveling alone. When you get to know someone, you don't really know like how long they're going to be in your life for. You just know that in the moment you're spending time with them, right? And
Hmm.
there's a lot of people that come into your life just for a couple of days, maybe even hours, and just because that relationship doesn't last like for a long amount of time, it doesn't mean that their impact wasn't significant, right? So sometimes like someone's impact lasts longer than their presence in your life, and that's okay.
That's so
Um,
beautifully said. Yeah.
I think that there's so much to learn from other people, from their experiences, their culture, their plans, and their ways of seeing life. That if you're truly open to hearing um, that, you can significantly expand your own life and your mindset as well. So I've loved every single lesson that I've picked up from like everyone I've met. I feel like just getting to know them, like it was such a wonderful experience, and like I take like little bits of like wealth from them, right? Like knowledge is wealth. So everything like I met someone and then they inspired me to become a web developer, right? From like the things like we shared in conversation. Haven't seen that person for 2 years, right? But that doesn't mean that like what I learned from them wasn't valuable. So yeah, I truly believe that, we're put in this earth to learn from others and appreciate life through like all these different perspectives. And traveling has reinforced that for me. So I think the most valuable lessons are the acceptance that comes from allowing these interactions with others to flourish, right? Even if it's for a short amount of time. And getting to know them and appreciating them, um, and letting them get to know you too, right? Because you have a lot to share. whether you feel like it or not. Like you never know like what they're gonna walk away from that exchange. So yeah, just allowing life to take you where you have to go.
Yeah, and it's following that like flow, that freedom, having that freedom and independence. And that was actually the main like factors for female solo traveling. So 46% said the reason for solo traveling was because of freedom and independence and the independence it provides. And another statistic, 72% of American women have embraced solo travel and are taking advantage of the unique destinations for inspiration and self discovery. So you have to allow yourself to have that freedom to discover yourself, to expose yourself to different things and see how it transforms you.
So
And
we talked about some
mhm.
of the awesome lessons from traveling independently and some of the benefits that we alluded to. What do you think the most difficult experiences you had while traveling independently have been?
I will be honest, there are some days where you do feel very alone. You feel tired, you feel sick, and you don't feel up for anything, right? And there's this guilt of I should be doing something, right? I should be going out to see all the sites, taking it all in, like, like hitting like all like the must see things. But really,
Mhm.
it's not going to be fun without being in a good space mentally or physically. And I will say that I've probably had one of those days in every single one of my trips, where I just don't feel great mentally or physically, and I just want to stay in my room, relax, kind of just like take a slow day. And the best way to get through those days where you just don't feel great is, to go inwards and see what you're missing. Just think to yourself, like, what do you need to feel better? Like, have you rested? Like, do you need to cry? Do you need to vent? Or do you need to talk to someone about it? Don't feel like you have to do something, like you must do something just because it's scheduled for your trip. Like be flexible with your schedules and know that you can always come back to it like another day.
I love that. Definitely not putting yourself in a box and
Mhm.
not being too rigid with yourself. If it's not flowing that way, you know, just adapt. Adaptability is very important. And sometimes being stubborn to be rigid with a specific plan that's just not working out could just bring more negativity as opposed to just trying to transform along with that.
I think people like tend to really hold on to their itineraries as well, where like the trip's gonna be ruined if they don't go see like the Tower of Pisa on Tuesday or something.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good point that, are you really gonna get something out of it if you're not in the space to experience it and to learn from it? So I think those are great points, and I've definitely experienced those days in the past as well. I also loved how you kind of told us how to overcome those challenges in the same time, so that's great. I also loved how you kind of went through what to actually do with those feelings and how to get through those difficulties, so I thought that was awesome. I guess in all of this and all of this travel, what do you think you really learned?
One of like the main benefits of like traveling on your own is that like you don't have to stick to like a certain schedule because like you're afraid of like disappointing the people that you're with. Like that's your vacation. Like that's your like that's fully your trip and like your time. Like you get to decide exactly what to do with it. So like even if you don't get to something, you don't have to feel bad for letting someone else down that wanted to see that specific site.
what recommendations would you give to people that are preparing to start traveling independently?
I think there's so many different things that like I research before going. There's so many different topics like picking where to stay, what to do, like itineraries. But baseline, I think what is most important wherever you go is safety, right? That was the one thing that was holding me back from even starting. So when it comes to safety, I would just say like don't sacrifice it for money, right? Never sacrifice your safety for money. Money always comes back and your peace of mind should be your number one concern, right? If the hostel that you're staying at is in a place where you don't feel safe, cancel the booking and go somewhere else, right? If you don't feel comfortable taking the metro at night, just spend a couple more dollars on an Uber, or like a rideshare app or whatever you use, instead of the metro. No, well, like the tourist traps are also um, one of the most important tips, because I did go out and like meet people and like hang out with them like one on one. I did a lot of partying while I was out by myself. Um, is find someone in your close circle, right? Whether it's your parents, your best friend back home, that has your location at all times. Like if you're gonna go out with someone, tell your safety buddy, that's what I would call them, like, tell your safety buddy, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go here with this person, and I should be back by this time, and if you don't hear from me by this time, then, like, please check on me," right? And I used it several times, and every time I was abroad, um, I made sure to have a safety buddy back home that knew exactly where I was, like, at all times.
I love that.
Um, and it's good because that way someone is aware of like what you're doing, where you're gonna be. Um, but also like you don't have to like constantly be answering calls like, hey, like where are you? So yeah, just having like someone that is looking out for your safety, but also yourself. Like trust your intuition, trust like I don't feel comfortable here, listen to that and get yourself out of that situation before it becomes something that you can't get out of.
I love that. Great, great advice. So, what has been your favorite place to travel to thus far?
Every place that I have traveled to has something that is so unique and iconic to it, right? So I have really great appreciation for every single place that I've been. But my favorite place that I've traveled to was the first place that I ever solo traveled to. I felt extremely safe here. And it's Madrid. I love Madrid so much. It's the one place that I always want to go back to. And even when my friends tell me like, oh, it goes like somewhere new, I'm like, no, like I want to go back to Madrid first. Recently, I did fulfill my dream of visiting Mexico City. I was there for
Aw,
a week and it exceeded my expectations like so much. Like I can honestly say like the people there are the nicest people in the world. So shout out to people that I met in Mexico City. Like they were angels.
I love
Oh,
that.
my family lived in Mexico City, so that's good to hear. I love
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it's so
Uh,
beautiful.
that's awesome. Well, it sounds like you've been to some really awesome places and some places that you definitely want to keep revisiting. Is there anywhere that you're really looking forward to traveling to in the near and or distant future?
Mm, so I have a whole bucket list of places and things that I want to do and that I'm looking forward to. Um, And one trip that I'm really looking forward to that it's coming up very, very soon is a trip that I'm actually not doing solo. I'm going to Madrid with my family. So I actually get to
Aw,
show them, the place that I love so much to them. I get to experience it with them. So I'm very excited about that. And as for future solo trips, I don't really have any planned right now. And the way that I end up going places is just like how the opportunity comes up, right? I ended up in Portugal one time because I found like a super cheap ticket while I was in Madrid. So just I keep my mind very open to like possibilities and just being flexible with my time. So we'll see where I end up after the Madrid trip. Yeah.
and it's good that you have this mindset so early because you're just gonna keep traveling and experiencing so many adventures. I love that. And I agree, and I feel the same way with a lot of what you said. For instance, when I studied abroad in Spain, I loved Valencia, and I felt like I had to come back again and bring my family, and I did with Luke, and it was one of the most beautiful experiences. So Spain is definitely a place that I love revisiting. Um, so I could see why you would want to go back to Madrid and keep going back, and has been meaningful. Um, and I'm excited to keep seeing the places that you go. I love keeping up with where you're at with what you post.
Thank you. No, I'm really glad that you got to like experience Valencia too, and then got to experience it again with like your family because it's always nice to like be in a place that you love with the people that you love, right?
Hmm.
I think one of like the random things that I learned while I was solo traveling is that you really realize who you love when you are solo in a place and it's so beautiful and you just think, wow, I really want this specific person to see this with me. I feel like that's how I realized like, oh wow, like I really love this person. I wish they were here so they could see
Aw,
this with me.
yeah, I
No.
agree.
What way do you think traveling solo has changed your life the most?
Mm, that's a really great question. I think that solo travel has changed my life. In a really great way, right? It made me realize what I really wanted to do and like what I wanted out of life, like overall. And I realized that all I really want to do is experience life, right? Um, to the fullest. So travel when I want, use my time the way that I want. Ever since my first solo trip, my life has aligned in a way that I truly wanted and has led me to where I am right now. It's really funny. After my first solo trip, with a company, right? I was working, they let me work remote. And then I came back, got all my stuff together, and I quit that job, right? And I quit that job. I went back to school. I learned web design and I was able to do that course in Madrid, right? So traveling while I studied. Um, and now, because I learned web design and I made some connections and I felt just very empowered. I am the owner of Fika Virtual Solutions. So I'm a virtual assistant that specializes in websites, management, and research. All of these were skills that I had developed in the past, either through past work experience or higher education with research. But I'm so excited to put them all together and put them to work for myself, right? I I always wanted a job that would allow me to be flexible and, I can still work like while I'm on the go and travel. So that was like one of like my biggest goals. So I'm just very happy that I can go ahead and do that for myself now. And just still experience life while I am, building my own business. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
thank you, thank you.
Professionally, like
Right.
traveling has definitely elevated you. But I also see that it's also elevated you emotionally, and in many other ways.
Yes, exactly. It's been just honestly like a boost of like everything.
Confidence?
Um, like I said, like from the people that I've met, the situation that I've been through, like just all the realizations that I've had, like because I was like fearless enough to like take like this one chance on myself that I thought, okay, if I can get on a plane and go abroad and do this for myself, then I can plan, take that calculated risk, quit my job, go back to school, and then just start my own business. And put all those skills to work for myself. So I'm very happy. And like you said, like the emotional development is really is another really great factor as well. Because of being more like emotionally aware and like um a lot of things that have helped me like while traveling is just having like an emotional outlet as well. Just like I think creativity just kind of like feeds into that as well of being able to write. So that has helped me um just kind of like pour my emotions into a creative field, right? So now I do make music for the Brightside Productions as well, under Soph, and a lot of projects are coming out from that. I recently wrote a song, and that song is just a lot of emotions, just poured into that. Um, and traveling has just opened my heart in a lot of ways, and I put that into my music too. Um, and just like one of like the cover arts for like cover that I'm doing of Walls by the Lumineers, which I did see on a trip, is a picture that I took like at an airport at the Madrid airport. So it just all kind of feeds into each other, right? So I'm very excited that I get to do like this creative project for the Brightside Productions because of like my experiences that I've had like through solo traveling. So yeah.
I love that. I love how it's all interconnected for you, how you're just growing in all directions and each thing is its own form of like expression. Like for instance, like solo traveling led you not only to make your own business, to make your own creative like artistry, direction, but also it's you've grown as a person. You've become way more extroverted than you were. I feel like you've always been extroverted, but to an extent like you're mostly introverted um deep down. So I feel like this is your way of like taking the wheel. And that's just my perspective. I don't know if it like resonates what I'm saying.
No, definitely. I can see that growth within myself too. Like
I love that, and I'm so excited for the many adventures to come. Would you like to let the audience know the name of your song and when it's releasing?
yes. So first song, my first single is releasing on February 29th at midnight. It's called Forgive Me. It's basically an apology to myself, for letting myself down in the past and putting other things above my own well-being, which your well-being should always be, first place, always. So sometimes you do have to like forgive yourself. And that's just what this song is. It's an apology to myself.
I love it. I'm looking forward to streaming that all the time because I it's so beautiful. I'm so excited to share for you to share it with the world.
I'm super excited too. I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Well, thank you so much, Soph, for such an insightful interview and Bright Talk segment. It was really great having you on. For our next episode, we'll actually be interviewing our Chief Music Officer, Jake Riosti, and having a Bright Talk segment with him. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care.
Episode 4 was executive produced by Richard Brito, Shelby Flohr, Sofia Paez, Luke Riosti, Jake Riosti, Andres Gil Arana, Zoe Rosetsky, and John Scrivenage. Music by Jake Riosti. Edited by Luke Riosti and Richard Brito.